I have this pointless piece that goes in my truck. It's a active grill shutter motor, and nobody's figured out how to delete it through software, or at least haven't come across anybody that has. And so there's a fix that you can do online. You can actually purchase a piece of aluminum that's already bent, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to build it today. So I'm going to show you guys how to cut it out of a piece of aluminum. This is just a piece of scrap that I had sitting in my scrap box that I'm going to be using, and hopefully I'll get it fixed up and it'll work once we're all finished up. So I just did some rough dimensions. There's not really any scientific method in which I measured this or anything. I just kind of lined it up and hoped that it would be big enough once I get everything all finished up. So I went ahead and cut this piece to make it fit. And I wish I had a dang workbench, but you know, that's just my life these days. So I'm going to be working on my table saw. I did find these two screws that I purchased some bulb lamps or bulb lights for the inside of my house, and these are the crappy screws that came with it. So they're the same size, same thread, so I decided to give it a shot and use them for this application. I'm going to be cutting them up anyway, so it doesn't really matter how long they are. Also, I'm not super concerned about how this looks. You're never going to see it. It's going to be behind the grill, kind of tucked away. So as long as I can get the burrs off like you see here and get it to look as straight as possible, a file will do just fine. I'm not going to sand this or make it look pretty or anything like that. Alright, so I went ahead and test fit this up. I cut off, there's some support ribs that run through this plastic piece. I cut those off so this piece would fit flush. And so I decided, wow, this is perfect. This is going to take me no time at all. We're about, I don't know, 5 minutes in. If anybody's doing this at home, just align it to, bend it at that kind of point there on that plastic piece. I also don't have a vise, so that's really helpful. So just decided to use some, you know, a nice little crescent wrench and bend it up. And if you bend it too far, this will happen. Perfect. I broke my piece. So let's just go ahead and start from square one and get another piece fixed, because that just wasted a bunch of my time. Some more filing. And the solution to make sure that it doesn't break this time is to add a little heat. I should have known this in the first place. I've bent and broken aluminum in the past, but I just wasn't thinking about it, especially on this cold winter day in Texas. But the propane just wasn't heating this up very quick. So it took me a little bit to get this bent, and I was still worried about it breaking. So instead of wasting a bunch of time and breaking another piece, I decided to bust out the big guns. And with the map gas, this goes really, really quick. Actually, you can see it starts to warp the aluminum a little bit more than I wanted it to. Here's the good news, is it actually didn't break. I didn't see any stress marks on the aluminum once I finished bending it. So that was the solution. So using the map gas, doing it, and then my table saw was used as a really great flat surface to fix that warping issue once we finished with the map gas. Now here's the alignment. You guys can see that you just line it up to that kind of plastic lip there. I'm just going off of what I've seen online, and it works. So if you guys are doing this at home, trying to duplicate this, just make sure it's straight and just aligns to the lip. And once you get the holes marked out, they're going to look like they're off, because they are. That's not a perfectly straight line. So we're going to go ahead and bust out my good old Amazon tap and die set and get these threads figured out. You can use a thread gauge, which I tend to do, or you can just go ahead and grab the tab itself and see if it aligns to the threads. Plus, that's a little bit easier way to see the size of the screw and make sure that it fits. Then I grabbed a 1/8 drill bit. It was just under the size of the screw, and it allowed for enough tension when I was tapping these threads to give the screw a really good grip against aluminum. Now, I'm not going to be cranking this thing down too hard. It should hold fairly well, and after I grind it off, the grind's actually going to allow it to hold even better. It'll almost lock the screw into place once we grind it down and kind of bury it into that aluminum a little bit. One thing to note is I did break off these little tabs that were holding the motor in place. So to make screwing through these holes a little bit easier, just go ahead and snap those off with a pair of pliers or use a utility knife and that'll come right out. I wasn't very specific on the size of drill bit, so just go with what you think is right. You can cut off the back of this little servo arm. That way we're not getting any rubbing against the aluminum once we get it mounted. I didn't think I'd have any rubbing issues, but saw somebody do it online, so why not just save me a little bit of time, and if it doesn't need it, oh well, I went ahead and did it. And after I went ahead and tightened these up, it fit perfect. So I'm not even going to take this apart. I'm just going to go ahead and grind off the ends of these screws, file it down a little bit, because again, I don't care what it looks like. And we're all finished up. So let's see if this sucker works. Good old trusty RAM. Plug it in. Start her up. And watch the magic happen. Alright, well, here it goes. We did it. Congratulations, everybody. I'll see you in the next video.